Welcome back to Trotter Chatter. We're joined here today by Chris from Albion Analysis. How are you, mate?
Not too bad, pal. Yourself?
Not bad at all. Thank you for joining me. So, I suppose first of all, tell us a bit about Albion Analysis for people who don't know.
Well, I mean, we're obviously an Albion-focused podcast. We are, as the name sort of suggests, interested in the data side of things. We try to sort of give a deeper analysis of the game beyond just sort of like what we see in the pure eye test. We try to sort of like look at what the numbers are saying. We watch the games as well, but it's just a bit of a deeper dive. I'm sort of the journalistic leg of it. I used to work for the club for 8 years on the communication side, and Pete, who does the pod alongside me, is very much the performance analyst. So he looks at all the data in depth. I do a bit of that, but it's very much layman's stuff that I do.
Excellent. Yeah, I clocked that. What's the other chap called as well? What was the other account?
Pete George.
Pete George. Pete George. Yeah, yeah. Excellent. Well, yeah. Thank you for coming on. And so I suppose we'll have a bit of an insight into to West Brom. Obviously, as I thought previously, quite irrelevant to you these days. It's been like 10 years, I think, since we played you in the Premier League now, maybe more. So now
Played us in the Championship, though. I think that was the day that your fans all walked out in protest of and protest of the ownership. We beat you at your place, but there was virtually no Bolton fans in the stadium because you voted with your feet that day, as I recall.
yes, that was 2-1, I think it was.
Yeah. It was a mad game because we were all over you, and then you got one back, and really we panicked towards the end. To be honest with you,
Darren Moore, wasn't it? Back in the day.
Darren Moore was the manager. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right there. You're right. We did actually get a win over you that season as well in the second leg.
Well, it was the first game of the season, wasn't it? It was Josh McGuinness absolutely bullied us at the Hawthorns on the opening day of the season. Harvey Barnes scored for us with a screamer, but McGuinness and it's not the last time McGuinness would do that to us. Every time he plays against us, he seems to give us an absolute nightmare.
Well, he's playing for them up the road now, so let's talk. Yeah, so ninth place you finished last season. Obviously started with Steve Bruce, didn't you? And now it's Carlos Corberan. Is he? Am I right saying he was what's his bloody name now? Ex Leeds boss.
Huddersfield. He did work for Leeds. He was on Bielsa's coaching staff.
Yes, he was.
But he was the Huddersfield manager that led them to the playoff final. Corberan did an unbelievable job last season. Bruce had a nightmare. There's no shying away from that. We were bottom of the league on the 1st of November. Bruce was sacked with us in the bottom three. One win all season, and I think it was the first. I think Bruce managed 15 games before he was fired, and it really set us back. But Corberan took over, like I say, on the 1st of November. 10 wins out of 11, unbelievable run, which took us into the playoffs. But then sort of post the World Cup, we had a thin squad last season, and we suffered quite a lot of injuries. We basically, every left-sided attacker that we had got injured in the space of about 3 weeks, and our goalkeeper, who'd been superb, got injured. We lost Dara O'Shea for the last 10 games, who's now gone to Burnley for £7 million. So there was we just lost a lot of players, and it just caused us to be a bit inconsistent towards the end of the season. And in the end, I mean, you say we finished ninth. That doesn't really paint the whole picture, because there was a period on the final day where we were winning and all the other results were going for us, and we were in sixth place. So that's how close to the playoffs we were. When you say ninth, it makes although that obviously is where we finished, it makes it sound like we actually finished some way off the playoffs. But actually, there was a period of about 10 to 15 minutes on the final day where we actually were in the playoff places until Sunderland started beating up Preston, and that was the end of things.
It was a bonkers final day, that one. I remember it very well, very well.
Mm.
So, sort of moving into a new season then, what do you expect from West Brom? Is it playoffs?
No, I've got no idea, to be honest. The problem is we're heavily in debt. We know this because we've had to take out a £20 million loan from MSD Holdings. Look, you guys will know probably better than most clubs what it's like to go through a horrendous ownership. We're going through that. We so easily could be the next Bolton, the next Derby, the next cautionary tale, because we've got an owner. We're owned by a Chinese interest, shall we say. Gauchon lies the front man to it, but it appears that our ownership is deeply splintered, and our sort of shares are fragmented all over the show, owned by different companies, and some which have some links to the Chinese government as well. So we're all over the show in terms of our ownership, which makes us extremely hard to sell. The long and short of that has been that the ownership have taken loans out of the club, which they've missed the repayment dates on numerous times. The last promise was to repay early in 2023. Well, we're in July now, so I would suggest that we're beyond early 2023, and we've still not seen that £2.5 million back. And we're having to take £20 million loans out to cover the shortfall. So what that means going into this season is that at the moment we've sold Dara O'Shea for £7 million, but everybody else that we've sold, I wouldn't consider, or let go, I wouldn't consider to be an important player to us. We've let Jake Livermore, Kean Bryan, Tom Rogic go on freeze. We let Carlin Grant go on loan to Cardiff. We let young Zach Ashworth go to yourselves. And there's talk that David Button will go to Reading, and Nathaniel Chalobah has been heavily linked with a move to Maccabi Tel Aviv, although that one does seem to be falling through. If any of those players go, it's not a loss. And if we go into the season with the squad that we've got, which is a starting 11, including people like Alex Palmer, Connor Townsend, OK Yokoslu, Jason Molumby, John Swift, Brandon Thomas Asante, Jed Wallace. That is a very, very competitive championship starting 11. But there's no depth beyond that. And the other concern is, do more leave before the end of the transfer window in order to balance the books? So it's impossible to answer your question, because I don't know what the squad is going to look like come the close of the window. I think there's no chance of automatic. We're not going to have the squad to do that. Playoffs would be what we would want, and we need the financial aspect of it. But what we also need is a period of consolidation where we start actually running the club properly, stop wasting money, because whilst the owner has taken loans out which he's not repaid, the other side of it for us is we've paid some enormous transfer fees for people like Carlin Grant, Ken Zahor, and they've just not been worth it. We keep giving players in their 30s new contracts and then ending up having to release them on freeze. So we don't ever. The only player that we've made a profit on in my recent memory is Matthias Pereira. All the rest we seem to make a loss on. You go back to the Jeremy Peace days, and we keep players till they sort of match their value, and we'd sell players on for good money, whether that was people like Curtis Davis, who we made a huge profit on, whether that's people like, even Nathan Ellington, who hadn't had the best time at the Albion, we still more than made our money back on. There was various players we made a profit on. Paul Robinson, Paul McShane, we made a profit on inside 12 months. We just don't do that anymore. So there's a bigger picture going on with Albion. Yes, we need the Premier League money, but far more than that, we need to turn the oil tanker around. We need to become a sustainable club, and I do look at a club like Bolton, who have been through it, and and a club like Sunderland who've been through it as another example. Derby seem to be righting themselves, Ipswich as well. Clubs that have been badly run and have managed to turn it around. And I look at clubs like yourselves as a bit of a glimmer of hope for where we can get to. I just no offense to Bolton, I just hope we don't have to fall as far as you did to come back.
You don't want to be. We were very lucky to get out of League Two, and I think the fact we got out of League Two practically saved us at that part. Like you mentioned, we've been run very sustainably. We buy players on a free. We'll sell them on for money. We won't waste. I'll not name any names, but most of our transfers have been worthwhile. Maybe one or two that we spent like $500,000 on a striker that have not quite come to fruition yet, which isn't maybe a bit of a panic buy. But like you say, it's sad that you have to learn the lesson almost, isn't it, before it gets fixed.
I mean, it's not really learning the lesson. We were just bought by people who had absolutely no history owning a football club and therefore did not have a clue how to run it.
Do you think that's potentially where the Zach Ashworth thing comes in? A young prospect with an option, a loan to buy. Is that sort of another way? Sort of, we might have to sell this guy on rather than keep him on the books, or?
I mean, no, yes and no. I think the Zach Ashworth deal for me is reflective of the problems that we've got, but I don't think we would be doing the Zach Ashworth deal if Corberan rated him, because I don't. I mean, we've got a bunch of young players, people like Tom Fellows, Jamie Andrews, Mo Farl, and they don't appear to be being shipped out in the same way. Plus, Zach Ashworth is not going to be on that much money, so he's not. You could get rid of 10 Zach Ashworths and it probably doesn't save you as much money as getting rid of one Carlan Grant. Yeah. So it wouldn't be where our focus would be, is shipping out young players. If anything, if we rated them, what you'd probably be doing is getting rid of the players in front of Zach Ashworth, which in this case would be Connor Townsend, who's going to be on far more money, and bring in the young player through because he's a cheaper alternative. I think the fact that Ashworth has gone out probably stems from the fact that Corberan's not terribly impressed with what he saw in his loan to Burton last season, which from what I understand of the data, and my co-host was very kindly talking me through this only yesterday, that Zach Ashworth's data was not good at Burton. It wasn't impressive. Burton obviously were not one of the better sides in the league, but Ashworth's data is not anything to write home about. Certainly nothing that we would be looking at and going, when we had Caleb Taylor on loan in the same division at Cheltenham, and he really smashed it, and he's come back, and I think the general consensus of a lot of Albion fans is that they would like to see him start on the opening day against Blackburn. So I think that Ashworth is not in the same is in the same bag. I haven't seen that much of Zach. What I've seen of him with 2 90 minutes, one against Sheffield United in the League Cup where he was really, really good. And then the other was a League Cup tie away at Derby in the next round, so only a few weeks later, and he got absolutely destroyed. So I've seen him have one very good game and one very bad game, so it's hard for me to judge. But in terms of the structure of the deal, I think it is indicative of where we are as a club, because we've given all the power to you, which I don't think we should be doing. It doesn't make any sense to me, the deal we've done with you, because we've given you an option to buy. Now, for me, the only things that would have made sense for West Bromwich Albion Football Club were either A, selling him now, B, loaning him with no option to buy, or C, loaning him with an obligation to buy.
Yeah.
Maybe based on the proviso that you get promoted or something like that. But the deal that we've done basically says to you, if he does well, you can buy him for an agreed fee. But the chances are, if he does well, he might be worth more than the agreed fee. So that makes no sense. Or he does badly, and you choose not to buy him, in which case we're stuck. Yeah, in which case we're stuck with a player who hasn't proved his worth in League One. And then what do we do with that player? Because he's not going to play for us, and nobody else is going to touch him. So the structure of the deal is strange because all the power is with Bolton, and I don't understand that.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll certainly keep an eye on him for you, and I will let you know how he gets on. Hopefully, you don't feel too regretful about it. Sort of moving on to previous fixtures. Obviously, we mentioned the last time we played was that season in the Championship. Before that, terrible memory of mine. So we were 2-0 up at home, 2 games away from finishing the season, obviously in the relegation spots. That 3 points would have seen us to stay in the Premier League. Finished 2-2.
James Morrison. Yeah, I remember it well.
And then we had to take it to Stoke, and the rest was history. Any big Bolton v West Brom moments that stick in your mind?
Well, given that you've very eloquently brought up one where it all went horribly wrong for you, I'll return the favour, because my big memory of facing Bolton is the playoff semi-final second leg when Big Sam was your manager, and we were 2-0 up, and I believe we missed a penalty to make it 3-0 as well. And then I think, did Per Fransen's, he's definitely scored one. I think Fransen scored one, and then the other one was a penalty. And you ended up drawing 2-2, and then you absolutely demolished us at the Reebok. Ricky Gardner, I just remember running us absolutely ragged. But there was a real sliding doors moment in that game where we were 2-0 up, and we had a penalty to make it 3, and we missed it. And I think I really think if we'd gone 3-0 up in that game, I think the game would have gone away from you. I mean, as it turned out, in the bigger picture, it actually didn't matter that much, because we ended up going up the next season anyway. But we probably weren't that ready to go up at that point. It was Gary Megson's first full season as manager, and
don't say his name.
Well, he might not be Sir Gary Megson at the Reebok, but he certainly is at the Hawthorns. You know, I mean, the guy took us from we were getting relegated when he came in. We were going to the 3rd tier of English football for only the 2nd time in our history. He saved us. He then took us to the playoffs in the next season, and then he got us to finish 2nd behind an unbelievable Manchester City team, and clawed back 12 points on our main rivals Wolves to finish above them in 2nd. So Gary Megson may not be particularly welcome at the Reebok, but he will always be beloved at the Hawthorns. But yeah, I think my main memory of playing Bolton is probably that game, to be honest, because it just could have all gone so differently. But like I say, you won it, and then you won the playoff final, and then you went on to have an unbelievable time in the Premier League for many years under Big Sam. And to be honest, although we lost that semi-final, we then went on to have probably, not the greatest season in Albion's history, but probably the most enjoyable season, given that we clawed back 12 points on our nearest rivals to pip them to promotion. I think many Albion fans would do well to say that there's been a more enjoyable season in our history. So it all worked out well in the end, I think is fair to say.
Yeah, well, both sides had some nice spells, not so bright days these days. So a few for the Bolton fans out there. So on Nakata's free kick, his only goal for the club, I think that was back in 2005. My main memory, I think it must have been at 2014, 2015. We played you on Boxing Day, and it was the coldest game I've ever been to in my life. We came back to a Boxing Day party, and me and my brother just spent our time sat in front of a fire thawing ourselves out. So that not a great memory. So yeah, just to finish up a few little bits. So I've had a look at sort of the tail of the tape between the two teams. So Bolton have won 50 times. 47 draws and 49 losses, so pretty even, really, pretty even. So let's have a go at this this played for both sides tennis. So we tried it out with Everton in our last episode. Basically, I'll fire one at you, you try and hit one back. So I'm going to open with Keith Andrews.
Well, I'm obviously going to open with the Albion legend that is Sir Bob Taylor.
Again, a name I'm not too fond of. Paul Robinson.
Don't ask him to play on a Monday. Fabian De Freitas.
I think he was loaned at you as well. Daniel Sturridge.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, you're using "played for" very liberally there because
cracking up a season for us.
Well, he didn't for us. He was a sick note. He was injured basically the entire time, and we paid. I think we paid a fortune in wages for him, probably about 100 grand a week. It was an abysmal signing. Well, I'm going to go for another one that you remember much more fondly than we will. Nicholas Anelka.
Yes, who's that? Wasn't he? Nick? Yeah, that was it. Craig Dawson.
Oh, Dawson. Oh, yeah, he was on loan at you, wasn't he?
Loan. It was one of those don't fall in love with a loan player kind of situations.
Well, I'll mention a player that I worked with, and I actually got on quite well with Big Abdoulaye Mate.
Yes, well, you've just taken mine actually there. Tyrone Mears.
Oh my Gordon Bennett, you had him, did you?
Yeah, not a fan.
Jeez. Well, I mean, we obviously both shared Big Sam. I don't know whether that counts.
Yeah, but Burley for you guys. Yeah, Big Sam. My final one I've got is Lloyd Dyer, but I don't think he ever kicked a ball for us.
Didn't he? I'll be honest. I didn't even know he played for you.
Exactly.
Well, I've only got one more, which I remember an absolutely. He wasn't one of our better signings, but in the 90s, Julian Darby.
Julian, I think I'm showing my age there.
Yeah, well, I think I'm showing mine. To be fair, no, he was a centre mid that we had from. I believe we signed him from Coventry, but for quite a bit of money for the Albion back in those days. It was a couple of £100,000, which at the time was quite a bit for us. He wasn't very good.
So not many fond memories from those names, to be fair. I can't say I liked Keith Andrews either, to be honest. So yeah, just to wrap it up then, sort of the players we should be watching out for on Saturday, and then if you can grace us with a score prediction as well.
Well, I mean, it depends, obviously, because he's been playing like two different 11s in the different halves. So, but I would expect it to be a strong side, given that it's the last friendly before the start of the season
as well. I'd want to see a team that we're thinking of starting against Lincoln for the opening game.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, the ones I would say to look out for. I've been very impressed with Caleb Taylor in pre-season. I think there's a really, really talented young centre half there. I think he's I mean, you probably saw him twice last season for Cheltenham anyway, but I think he's a really, really, really good player. There's the usual suspects to look out for, which is John Swift, Jed Wallace. You know, just both brilliant. Swift in particular is he's just a class above at times in the Championship, but. I'll point you towards watching, assuming that they play together, our central midfield pairing of Jason Mulumby and Okay Yokoslu, because Okay Yokoslu is just a Rolls Royce of a footballer. He just sits in front of the back four. He's cool. He's calm. He swats away opposition players when they try to take the ball off him like they're flies. And Jason Mulumby is he's almost the opposite. He's just, it's like watching the Duracell bunny play football. He's just a machine. He just tanks up and down. And the Albion fans love him. He was the supporters player of the season last year, and with good reason as well. And he's just, I think that in the modern age, there's so much emphasis put on players who are on the tactical element of making sure that players are in the right place, doing the right thing. And I love Jason Molumby because it's so nice to be able to watch a player who just plays football with total energy and at times reckless abandon. And I don't think you see that enough anymore. So if Jason Molumby plays, just enjoy Jason Molumby until he goes through one of your players. Then you probably won't enjoy him
We
quite so
don't
much.
need any more injuries now, thank you. We've already lost
No,
back on a centre half. We don't need any more.
neither do we.
Look, you need players, really, don't you?
Well, we do, yeah, we do. And we lost Adam Reach through he hobbled off against Burton. So yeah, we really. I mean, that's my biggest want for you say about a score prediction. I mean, you know, my biggest desire out of Saturday is that everybody comes through it fit. To be honest with you, I couldn't care less about the score. I'm gonna say 2-2, just purely on the basis that that's how our last two pre-season games have finished. So why not go for a hat trick of 2-2s? We've drawn with Salford 2-2.
2-2 against you guys at home. I really don't. I will. I'm going to hit you back with a 1-1 draw. Then we'll say it's all tied at the end of it all. And that's pretty much it. But thank you very much for that, Chris. I'm sure that's given us an insight into basically a team that we've not been involved with for a long, long time. And it's interesting to see the kind of situations these clubs are in. Basically, all I know from West Brom is seeing you guys, like you said, after Bruce was managing right near the bottom and then on your way up, and you just see glimpses here and there. So I thought that was really useful, and I'll certainly be looking out for those players on Saturday. I'm taking my eldest there. He's only 4, so he'll enjoy that. It's only his 3rd game. He's not seen us win yet as well. So if we can do that, that'd be brilliant.
Well, I'll give you that one. Do you know what? If you get a win and it makes your eldest happy, then I'll happily do that because it means we don't lose any points. So yeah, I've no qualms there whatsoever. But yeah, look, just all the best to you guys for the rest of the season. All have a little bit of banter back and forth and everything. But all joking aside, you're a famous old football club. You're a founder member of the Football League, and your fans don't deserve what's happened to your football club in the recent years. As I say, we're going through it at the moment, and we're very, very mindful and sympathetic to other fans who are having to suffer the same things or have had to suffer the same things that we're suffering at the moment. So I'm so glad to see you guys on the up, on the climb, because you're a club that deserves to be in the top 2 divisions, and I really hope you're back there soon.
Thank you very much, Chris. Well, you have a lovely evening, and we'll see how Saturday goes.
Yes, indeed. Have a lovely evening, and I'll look forward to the game on Saturday.
Yes, cheers.